Yes, Kenya. Tamu sana, yes, tamu sana. Yesterday, Kalonzo Musyoka and Raila Amolo Odinga made it very clear that they might be working on a possible power pact towards 2022. And then on the other side of the political divide, it seems to appear that the relationship between President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto is growing worse each and every day. Yes. How comes now, ladies and gentlemen, or rather, which sin is that William Ruto made that the king, or rather the president, cannot forgive him? That's the question, ladies and gentlemen, I want us to answer in this video today. We all know that one reason that is making it very hard for the President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta to reconcile with this deputy is because of the Gideon Moi factor. We all know that pretty well. But also, if you look at it keenly, ladies and gentlemen, there is also more to that. And historians give us an example of what might be causing this rift between William Ruto and the president. There is a very well-known historical figure by the name of Nicolas Fouquet. If you study the brand of politics by this man Nicolas Fouquet and one William Ruto, they've got some very many similarities. For those who don't know, Nicolas Fouquet was like the finance minister under Louis XIV administration in France. During that time in France, a king appointed a prime minister to rule on his behalf. So through bad luck or whichever way maybe God planned it, the prime minister at that time, by the name of Jules Mazarin, died while in office. So it was incumbent upon the king, Louis XIV, to appoint another prime minister to rule on his behalf. And the person who best suited that bill was none other than the finance minister, Nicolas Fouquet. Nicolas Fouquet was a very much loved man. He was very popular on the ground, and he also had money. He could loan government money at an interest. So when the prime minister died, everybody felt that it was Nicolas Fouquet to be appointed by the king to act as the prime minister. Yes. But nonetheless, instead of the king appointing Nicolas Fouquet the new prime minister, the king abolished that post of the prime minister altogether. And historians tell us that one reason that made the king abolish that post of the prime minister it was because Nicolas Fouquet's growing influence was becoming a threat to the king. So the king abolished that post maybe to tame Nicolas Fouquet's growing influence. So upon the king abolishing that post of the prime minister, Nicolas Fouquet, the finance minister, felt that his relationship with the king was somehow growing cold. So he organized a very lavish party in his newly built castle and invited the king as the guest of honor. Who in France at that time was invited, and they attended. And they had dinner, they partied till very late in the night, until to the wee hours in the morning. They partied. And then during the party, every speaker who stood to speak was heaping praises on Nicolas Fouquet, of how he's charitable, of his leadership qualities, of how he's much loved. Every speaker who stood to speak was heaping praises on Nicolas Fouquet. And the young king was there just listening. So that historians also tells us that also added salt into injury. Because the king also on that night, on that party night, also felt a little bit threatened by Nicolas Fouquet's growing influence again. So the following day after the party, the king ordered for the arrest of Nicolas Fouquet. Nicolas Fouquet was charged of embezzlement of public finance. He was sent to a very isolated prison in France. He died after 20 years in prison. He died in prison. A very popular man who was very much loved by the people, who was even rumored that was the rightful person for the throne of the prime minister. He not only lost his post as the finance minister, but also he never attained or got the post of the prime minister. And on top of all that, he died in prison. Yes. That's what befell Nicolas Fouquet. So historians tell us that the main reason Nicolas Fouquet was charged of corruption it was simply because his growing influence had become a threat, or rather had become a threat to the young king. So the young king had to get rid of Nicolas Fouquet. It was not because of corruption per se, because also we are being told by historians that the corruption that Nicolas Fouquet was engaging in, he was doing the corruption on behalf of the king. But nonetheless, they charged him of corruption and he died in prison after 20 years. From that story, ladies and gentlemen, many political analysts all over the world and even historians have, from all that story, and also if you read at 48 Laws of Power, a book by an American author, Robert Greene borrows a wisdom from that story. And he puts that story as an example of how what can befall you should you outshine the master. Robert Greene makes it very, very clear in his 48 Laws of Power, the first law, that never outshine the master. In your attempt to acquire power, always make those above you feel comfortably superior than they are, and you will attain the height of power. That's how Robert Greene makes it in his book, The 48 Laws of Power, the first law. And then he tells us that you can be more brilliant than your master, yes, but always try to make sure you dim your brilliance and enhance the brilliance of your master in terms of political engagement. That's how Robert Greene puts it. And then there is also another philosopher who borrows a wisdom from that story of Nicolas Fouquet by the name Balthasar Gracian. Balthasar Gracian, in one of his popular quotes, put it very clear that avoid outshining the master. All superiority is odious, but the superiority of a subject over his prince is not only stupidity, but is a fatality. He gives us an example of the stars and the sun. The stars and the sun might be related in one way or the other, also even in terms of brilliance. But you will never see the stars in the accompaniment of the sun, one sun at a time. Yes. So from that story, ladies and gentlemen, you can see clearly that what befell Nicolas Fouquet in France was because he outshone the master. He made the young king feel inferior, or rather insecure. If you look at William Ruto's brand of politics, William Ruto has made the king appear very, very unpopular in his own backyard of Mount Kenya. Today, the king appears as the laughingstock in his own back bedroom of Mount Kenya. I know from where I sit, the king is very, very angry, and the king will do all it takes to make sure he deals with his deputy. Yes, That's how politics is all wired. Because also Niccolo Machiavelli tells us that politics is not a church business. It must have some elements of that in it. So the Deputy President William Ruto has not only outshone the master in his own bedroom of Mount Kenya, but he has also outshone the master in the Jubilee Party. Yeah, so the king is very, very annoyed with one William Ruto. So folks, from all that story, you can clearly foresee how the whole incident might end. But I'm not trying to say that what befell Nicolas Fouquet in France should be the same fate that our brother William should also go through. I'm not trying to say that. So, having looked at all this, I tend to believe, or rather think, that William Ruto has got only one option for now. The only option, because we know currently the problem is this. Uhuru Kenyatta naturally has a soft spot for Gideon Moi. And Uhuru Kenyatta, from where he sits, if he can get away, Gideon Moi can be president, then he can be a very, very happy man. But with one William Ruto on the presidential race, it's now forcing the president to support Raila for something like a transitional presidency, so that maybe Gideon Moi can get power sometimes back, sometimes later on. But from where I see it, my advice maybe to one William Ruto is that he should play it low. Let him play it cool. If possible, if he can, he should even postpone his presidential ambition to a later date. If he does that, he will survive politically. If he continues on that trajectory, then he's going to make Raila Amolo Odinga the transitional president in 2022. I say that without any doubt at all. Otherwise, folks, if you vamped on this YouTube channel for the very first time, tap on the subscription button and also on the notification bell. Otherwise, God bless you. God bless Kenya. Tamu sana, yes, tamu sana.